Hi, greetings from Dahab, Egypt. Today's video, I am gonna walk you through everything you need to know about hiking Ala Kul Trek, everything from logistics, about the hike itself, cost, was it worth it? I'll cover everything in today's video. I'll share an agenda at the bottom. So here, let's get started. Okay, logistics on how to get to the trailhead. So there are two options you can take, an expensive option and a cheap option. We ended up taking the cheap option, but the first option is many hostels, guest houses, and hotels can organize a private taxi. So they would pick you up where you're staying and bring you to the first bridge. The first bridge is where the hike generally starts from. This costs 2,000 some, which is about 23 US dollars. The pros of this, it brings you directly where you need to start. The cons are that I find it a little bit expensive because it's not that far away. So we chose the second option. So the second option is you can get a Yandex, which is their equivalent to Uber, to the entrance of the park. That cost us 230 some, which is about 2 US dollars and I think 30 cents. So 20 US dollars cheaper. And then from the entrance of the park, you can start the hike. The only thing is, it's a dirt road and it's not that beautiful. And I think it might be about 10 kilometers to get to the first bridge, which is where the hike starts. So what many people do is then they hitchhike from the entrance of the park to the first gate. That's what we also did. Super easy to do. There's tons of cars coming in. They didn't bring us directly to the first bridge, but pretty close, maybe 1 or 2 kilometers away. And then from there, we started the hike. Super easy to do, didn't take much time, the second option, and it was a lot cheaper. And we got to meet some locals, so I recommend doing the second option. Do you need a guide? Is it safe to travel alone? And is the trailhead easily marked? You absolutely do not need a guide to do this. I found it completely safe to do alone. I was with a friend for this hike, but I saw plenty of solo hikers and everyone felt safe. It is one of the most popular hikes to do in Kyrgyzstan, so you'll never be alone and you'll meet a ton of cool people along the way. In terms of if the path is easily marked, there are no trail markers, but it's pretty straightforward. Everyone is moving in the same direction, so I never got lost. I did have some people tell me they got lost at some points because there's little paths that animals could take, but I could distinguish from the big wide path and the narrow path. But I would suggest downloading maps and events like maps.me or All Trails. So if you do get lost, you can easily get back to the main path. But overall, I don't think you'll get lost, and it's a really great experience, and I definitely do not think you need a guide. Best time of the year to go? I think the best time to do this hike is July and August. We did it in August, and at night it actually got pretty cold, so I wish I brought a warmer jacket, but during the day it was warm. People also do it in September. I think it just depends on the year. This year I saw someone hiking it in September and there was snow on the ground. So it's really up to you. I think September might be okay sometimes, but I definitely think July and August is when you're gonna have the highest chance of the best weather and it being warm and clear. So that's my recommendation. Do you need to bring your tent, sleeping bag, mat, food for this hike? The short answer is no, but I'll give also kind of a long explanation. So I chose to stay in a yurt my first night, which is kind of like a teepee tent situation. And then my second night I stayed in a guest house. The pro of this is you don't have the extra weight of all of the equipment. The con, and this is a big con for me, is it's really, really expensive and high season. So the yurt the first night was 4,000, including dinner and breakfast. This is about 47 US dollars. I found this really expensive because the yurt isn't luxury. It's a really cool experience, but you're sleeping on the ground and you're sharing kind of one bed with everyone. I'll share a picture on this. So I was like, okay, it's a lot of money and you don't get a lot of food in my opinion. And the second night, the guest house was a little bit cheaper. I think it was 3,200 some, which I think is like about $35 US dollars. And that was nicer because you had like a proper bed. But if I had to do it again, I would bring my own tent and sleeping bag because it's a lot cheaper. And then I think it's just a nice experience. Most people I met were doing that option. If you don't have a tent and sleeping bag with you, you can rent that in town in Karakol. There's like 2 or 3 places that rent equipment. It's not the best equipment, but for a 3-day hike, it's perfectly fine and a lot cheaper. Okay, about the hike itself. Sorry, there's the call to prayer in the background. Some people do it in 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. We chose 3 days and we were happy with that decision because it was just the right amount of hiking each day. So the first day was relatively easy. It took us about 6 hours, but this was a very slow, consistent pace. One piece of advice I would give is bring several socks because there's several rivers you cross this day and your feet get pretty wet because there's not bridges, so you really have to be good at avoiding falling in the river, but I fell in every time. And then the second day was definitely the hardest day. Start as early as possible because this took us about 9 hours to this day. You have 1,000 meters of elevation gain, and then you reach Ala Kul Pass, which is where like the beautiful view is. So we stayed at the top for about an hour, and then it's 1,000 meters of elevation loss. So it's a very long day. Have lots of water on you, and make sure you're eating snacks along the way because you're burning a lot of calories. And then the third day was quite easy. So you have a couple options. Some people skip the third day and can take a taxi from, I think it's called Arshan. I'm butchering it. The taxi was 8,000 some, which is about 95 US dollars. So we were not really feeling like hiking the third day, to be honest, but we did not want to pay that price. So we hiked from Arshan to Aksu, and that was a really easy third day. It took about 3-4 hours. We arrived at Aksu, and you could take a bus into town for really cheap. I don't remember the price, but it's really cheap. We were lazy and didn't want to wait for the bus. I think it might come every 30-45 minutes. So we took a Yandex again, and the price of that I think was 700 some, and that's about 8 US dollars, and we split it between the two of us. So overall the hike I would say is medium. The first and third day are not difficult at all in my opinion, but the second day is challenging. And one thing I forgot to mention is when you reach the pass and you have to then go down, it's really steep, about 100 meters. I wish I brought hiking poles with me because there's a lot of rocks and they're uneven. So I was having trouble like not falling. I ended up going on my butt the majority of that 100 meters down. So I would recommend bringing hiking poles if you have them. Some people were completely fine when I saw them running down, but I really struggled with those 100 meters. I had hiking boots on me, but I just wasn't getting a lot of traction. I felt it was a little scary. Lastly, do I recommend this hike? 100%. I did several hikes in Kyrgyzstan, and I'll share them in other videos, and I think this one was the most beautiful one I did, so I highly recommend it. It is quite touristy and busy, but it's still not bad, especially compared to other hikes in the world where when it's busy, it's really busy and you feel like you can't even move. It was busy, but it wasn't bad. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe. If you didn't like the video, halas, just leave it. And I've done a lot of hikes around the world, so if there's a hike that you want information about, maybe there's a chance I've done it, so leave a comment, and if I have done it, I can create a video about that. So yeah, that's it.